Hey, welcome into another episode of Halos in the Infield with your host, Todd Fox, and the other host of the show.
The Lone Star Halo Fernando. How's it going, Halo fam? And Todd, how are you?
Halo honks, we are good. I'm good, Mr. Lone Star. As we start this show, we're going to be talking about our three underrated angels of all time, according to us, not the actual list, if there is one, if anyone's ever made one. But these are the three players that were underrated or
This is the formal list.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is it. We're making it right now. We are etching it with our blood on a stone.
Absolutely. It's all the emotions of watching these players over the years or just finding one player, maybe in the comments, or if you want to email us at Halos in the Infield, we're going to take your questions and maybe use
Halo's
it.
in the infield at what?
Oh, Halos in the Infield podcast at yahoo.com.
Okay,
That's
I'm like, that's pretty important.
yeah, you might want the right address. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
if you
fair.
guys or gals want to give us questions, comments, concerns, or just show topics, we can take those as well, and we'll integrate that in the show and give you props, for sure. Maybe even a free gift or something.
There you
But
go. Unless you have bad advice, then email us at halos in the infield at Hotmail.
there you go, because everyone has a Hotmail account. Or
Yeah.
but yeah, we're also going to be talking about Ron Washington's statements to the media about the Angels' upcoming season, the lack of more news on the Angels front, and where they're ranked as far as moves and what free agency and things of that nature, where the team's at.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. So let's get started. What topic you want to hit first?
Let's try to break the ice with something a little fun. Let's take a walk down memory road. Todd will occasionally call me on his way to work, lunch, whatever. We'll chit chat, we'll throw some baseball stuff around. Honestly, we should really record those conversations because most of the time they're A, comedic gold, and B, some really good Angels just ideas always seem to bounce off of us. But this one was kind of a fun conversation I had, and I was like, you know what, let's bring it to the listeners. A couple days ago, I asked the question of the day: who is your all-time favorite Angel who you like for no damn reason? We all have them, right? The one player that you're like, man, I love that guy. And people are like, but like, why? He sucks. And you're like, I know, but I like him. You'll defend him till the end of time, kind of like Todd with Suarez and Squiddy Poo. He would go to bat for those guys. He might even eat his firstborn, even though she's born already. But if he has to go in a time machine to save Squiddy Poo's life and he has to eat his firstborn, he'd
No,
consider it. He wouldn't do it, but he'd consider it.
that's not
His
another
face.
thing I want to think about, man. Oh, squeeze.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think anybody wants to consider eating their children.
No,
That's
not at all.
horrible. Yeah, animals do it. It's weird. Anyway, so just a bad joke. But we talked about it. We kind of spit some guys around, and I was like, you know what? Like, spend some time and think about it, and then let me know who your three are. So I'm gonna let you go first. Who are your three? Name them first, and then you can go into why if you'd like.
All right. I guess I have to start out with my boy Terry Evans. It'd be a hardcore Angel fan to remember this guy. He was a career minor leaguer, but he was around the time of Brandon Wood and some of your players that were ascending to the Angels, Jeff Mathis and a few others. And he was a part of that Disney crop, that was still being drafted by Disney. He put in his time. He put in a lot of home runs. I got to see him in spring training one year. I got to see him play for Salt Lake, and I thought, man, this guy is about 6'4", 220-pound kid, very fast. I saw him make some plays in the outfield. I'm like, man, this guy could make the squad someday. And I was thrilled to see one of I can't remember the year offhand that he made the club mid-season.
2007.
Okay, 2007. Okay, so he made the team. He came up, and I was at the game because I was intrigued. I wanted to see what he would do, and he came in late in a couple games, and then I happened to be at another game where he actually got a start, and he got a double, and then he hit a home run, and I was thrilled. I thought, man, this guy's finally gonna make it because Socha hadn't been playing him that much, and he's finally putting a couple RBIs on the board. He's got his feet wet. They're gonna play him because they need to play him. They had some injuries, and he stayed on the bench. And it was so disappointing because again, back then the Angels were a lot deeper, but and they were winning back then. They were winning, but Terry, man, he never got to see much playing time after that, unfortunately, and his career floundered, and I don't think he was in the majors after that as well. I don't know if they saw something, but the time he was up, he was good. That's all I gotta say. That's my one. Maybe you should get into your one. We'll just go back and forth.
So, so about Terry, you watched his only career home run
Yes,
and
yes.
you watched 33% of his career hits that day. He had 3 hits in his career, and you watched 33% of
Yep, I sure
them.
did.
You watched that man's golden moment. In 19 at bats as a major leaguer, he batted 158 with 1 home run. Hey, 3 RBIs.
Hey, see, he got another RBI when I wasn't there. So
Yeah, there you go.
I,
Okay, so I'll kind of hit you with my one. The first guy that came to mind for me was Dallas McPherson. Obviously, he was not super well known as a player. Obviously, a lot of Angels fans would know him. He spent 3 years with the Angels, 04, 05, and 06. I don't know why. I thought he had all the potential in the world at third base, first base, had the opportunity to play the corner infield there. He had a WAR of not even one combined in his career and batted 241. So as you can tell, he made it real far in his career. But I do know his name gets thrown around.
yeah, he was one of those guys that I thought he was gonna be a legitimate player for the Angels after Brandon Wood, or maybe during Brandon Wood's run too, because they had those crop of players, and very disappointing to see he caught mono and among other injuries that slowed him down.
Man, he was the first guy to get one of those like Angels injuries where you're like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, I guess my number two guy, and the Angels relied heavily on him back in the day, and it was before a little bit around the early days of Mike Scioscia, before the 2002. It sucked that he didn't make that transition with him, but his career kind of went down after 98. But from 96 to 98, you want to talk about Mr. Reliable, Mike Holtz, a lefty out of the Angels bullpen. I mean, he was forever the Angels. Like how they are now is completely different. Like now that it's like if you can throw left-handed, it doesn't matter if you've ever thrown the ball before, they'll take you. And but
But
back then,
Tyler Anderson got a job.
yeah. But the Angels back then, all I'm gonna say is if they had one lefty on the team, that's one too many as far as out of the bullpen. They had some sort of, like, they were racist against left-handed bullpen pitchers. And but the only guy that they used was Mike Holtz, and he worked for 3 or 4 years, and then his career went downhill. But he was good. I really felt he got us out of a lot of jams.
I've never heard of that man in my life, but in all fairness, 96 and 98, I was 1 to 3. So
Well,
a
I just
little bit before my time.
no, I get you, but like I'll put you this way: he had a 2.45 ERA in '96, he had a 3.32 in '97, and a 4.75 ERA. But they used him an awful lot.
A true angel.
Yeah, true angel for sure.
How many games did he play total in his career?
Total in his career, it looks like he played in 62 games.
Okay, so not a giant sample size for a career.
No, no, but I'm just telling you, like those 3 years when they needed him for an out, and literally it was like an out here, an out there,
Yeah.
a couple outs. He was
That was, before what, 2 years ago? Because, they now made that rule where you got to be in there for 3 batters minimum,
Oh, by the way,
unless, it ends the inning. But back then,
did you hear the new
one
rule this
batter.
year? Did you hear the new rule with the bullpen?
Which one?
The one where if you have someone warming up, you have to play him.
Oh, you have to bring him in? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I saw that.
yeah, at least one batter.
Yeah, I think they did that in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, that's
I think they at least it was something that was told to like the USA teams that had a player from the US. Like they were like, hey, if you're gonna warm that guy up, they have to go inside the game. So I don't know if that's kind of what happened.
that's probably what happened. Yeah.
All right. Anything else about the lefty,
No, that's
the
about all I have.
southpaw?
That was way too
Okay,
much.
that's fair. You gave him. You talk more about him. Anyone outside of his mom has talked about
He's like, I didn't even know
this
that about my.
millennium. This millennium. All right. So the other one is a name that some people might know here. The man from West Hills, Jet Bandy, one of the best names in professional baseball. I believe he was involved in the Martin Maldonado trade. They
Uh,
traded him to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee traded us Martin
okay,
Maldonado, if
yeah.
memory serves correctly. So Jet Bandy only played 2 games for us in 2015. He played 70 for us as an Angel in 2016, and he did pretty decent. I remember him doing way better than batting 234. I remember him being pretty hot at the beginning of that year.
Hmm. Yeah, he
Because
Jeff
who else was our catcher in 2016? Carlos Perez? I think it was
Giovanni
Carlos Perez.
Giovanni Soto and Carlos Perez. You're right.
Okay, yeah. So Jet Bandy, I remember really liking him. I remember him being a pretty big name to start because I remember him doing an autograph signing. I think it was at a T-Mobile store in Orange on Chapman Avenue, and I believe Tyler Skaggs was also there. Um, and I remember being really excited about Jet Bandy. No disrespect to Tyler Skaggs, but at that point, I'd already had a couple of items signed by Tyler Skaggs. Nothing by Jet Bandy, and I was so excited about him. Yeah, and he was involved in that trade in 2017 that sent him to Milwaukee. So we never really got to see his full potential, but considering the fact that he only went on to play 84 games in 2 seasons with Milwaukee, he didn't really end up having much of a career because in those 2 seasons he batted 287 in 2017 and 188 in 2018. Then he never played again.
Mm. One of those flash in the pans, right?
I mean, maybe, like I said, I thought he batted way better as an Angel. I thought he was at least like in the 260 range, but 237, that's pretty low.
Yeah, there's certain players that just like come and go, or they don't. It looks like they're the real deal, and this is like Jeff Bandy was a guy that he showed a lot of potential. So I'll give you that one. And here's another guy that I'm gonna go with another pitcher on this one. The great Jordan Walden, who I thought was the successor for Troy Percival and Frankie Rodriguez, or at least a good setup guy to Frankie when they still had him. And not so much. He had a it was he had a weird career. And for him to only be on the Angels for 3 years, it kind of pissed me off because he finished out his career with Atlanta and St. Louis, but he didn't pitch as many games as you would think with the Angels. He only pitched in 67 games in 3 years. And he had an ERA sparkling at 235 in 2010, 298 in 2011, 346 in 2012. But 2011 was his all-star year, 32 saves. And I thought this guy was going to be around for a long time. I don't remember what happened to him. Maybe in the comments or an email at halos in the infield podcast at yahoo.com, where we take your fan mail. Uh, but no, maybe you guys could fill me in on how his career ended. But it says here only 6 years in the majors. So maybe he had arm trouble.
Yeah, in 2015, he played 12 games with St. Louis and had an ERA of 0.87. So that would make me venture to guess that he must have gotten hurt and just had some career-ending injury, much like our friend maybe Braden Olthoff. Remember, he had a career-ending injury, so it could have been something like that. Because I don't know what happened to him off the top of my head. That's a really good name. He was stellar to start his career as an Angel, and I think most people, when you have an ERA of 2.35 and 2.98, let alone the fact that he had so many saves in 2011, a lot of people probably started to have some faith in this guy. Hey, he's a long-term piece.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that's kind of sad looking at his numbers. I mean, dude pitched 6 years and didn't have an ERA over 4. So I mean,
Yeah, and it's also crazy that he had a pretty good sample size in almost every one of those years except the first and the last one. Besides that, 62 games, 45, 50, 58. As a reliever, that's not nothing.
yeah, that's not bad at all. But and I just remember he had a herky jerky delivery. I like pitchers that give you that
It's like
different.
the stutter.
Yeah, yeah. He had that stutter. He had something like a Ben Weber back in the day. Angel fans would know that. Anytime you can give a hitter a different look, like Shigetoshi Hasagawa, Hideo Nomo, stuff like that, it throws off the hitter's timing. And I think Walden had something like that, almost like a slide step too.
Yeah, there's a lot of players, especially that have come over from Japan, at least in my lifetime, that have really, really perfected that stutter. Um, oh gosh, what was his name? Johnny Cueto is another guy who's notorious for, the herky jerky pause. Hansel Robles, he used to kind of do like the double leg kick sometimes. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
He would like quick pitch 100 miles an hour. And then the other times he would like pump his leg like two or three times and then throw 100 miles an hour. So, there's a lot of guys who have perfected it. But yeah, in my lifetime, I remember definitely a lot of pitchers who have come over from the MPB. I mean, what's his name? Akinari Oshka, who was a former Padre and Ranger. I remember he kind of did that. So
Okay, okay. Um, let me ask you this question. Let me throw a curveball in there, and I should have brought this up before we went on, but let's see if you can you think of a veteran that the Angels got that was past his prime but still productive, and you wish that you had more of his career than the sample size you got with the Angels?
Escobar.
Okay, Escobar. Can you think of another one maybe?
Let's see. Who did we get at their end of their career
Because
who was decent for us?
I could think of two. Let's see if you agree with this one. Because I agree with Escobar. Escobar would have been awesome to have
A
longer.
lot of Angels fans are always talk about like how he wasn't good for us, and I'm like, I don't know, guys. If you look at the numbers, besides Mike Trout in 2016 and 2017, he was our best hitter. Guy
Yeah,
was nearly a 300 hitter. He was the prototypical leadoff guy. Got on base, wasn't too fast, but he wasn't too slow. He was a doubles machine.
and he wasn't a liability at third. He was very underrated with defense at third.
Yeah, he
Very,
also made a lot of boneheaded decisions. Got thrown out a lot, but hey,
yeah, yeah.
you win some, you lose some.
Base running wasn't great, but yeah. No, a guy I think of all the time is Jose Abreu. Like I loved his play discipline.
Bobby Abreu.
Or Bobby Abreu. There you go.
Yeah, he was a right fielder for us, right?
Yeah, yeah. He wasn't the best outfielder because obviously he's past his prime, but dude had a great eye. He was a good teacher. And I wonder why he's not a coach nowadays.
Might not be interested yet because he was a very respected player. He was with us in was it 2012?
Yeah, it might have been through 13 because I know he spent 2 years with us.
Okay, yeah, so 12 and 13 then. Because he was here the first year that Pujols was here, if memory serves correctly.
Correct, correct. And
Okay,
he actually carried the load most of that year when Pujols was hurt.
yeah, yeah. So I have a guy for you. And this one's going to be a little bit out of left field. And this is for your question. I haven't given you my final guy I've always liked.
Mm.
But a guy whose career I would have seen a little bit more. Now, this is a bench piece, and it was Ben Revere in 2017.
Oh,
Was
okay.
a great bench piece for the Angels, flirted with that 300 number, very fast, a very Billy Hamilton type of player. Now, a lot of people don't like Billy Hamilton because, he can't hit to save his life. And Ben Revere was almost on the same boat. He was on the Futures team representing the U.S. with Mike Trout in 2010, the game that was played at Angel Stadium. And so was Danny Espinosa, for its worth. And those guys had big expectations, and Ben Revere never really quite met up to those expectations. But he was really great coming off of the bench for the Angels in 2017. And I don't think he really played much after that. It would have been great to see him, A, stay late in Angels a couple more years, or B, maybe have gotten him, years ago instead of Minnesota. I think Minnesota just put too many expectations on him. There's valor in an outfielder who provides good defense and is speedy, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree, and that goes to my second player. It goes back to again the late '90s when the Angels were struggling. But I love Tony Phillips. I hated him with the Oakland A's. The late great Tony Phillips had passed away a few years ago. That guy was a switch hitting machine, could get on base, very fast, made spectacular because him and Ricky Henderson were good friends, and they were actually on the Angels together for 1 year. But they spent a lot of time in Oakland, and man, when he came to the Angels, he brought the Angels just did not have a leadoff guy since Devon White, and when he came in there, dude, like it just changed the offense, and that's when guys like Tim Salmon, Garrett Anderson, Jim Edmonds were all coming up, and they learned from him. So I mean, I really like Tony Phillips, and we got him at the tail end of his career. I wish he had been with the Angels longer.
Yeah, that was a little bit before my time, father time, so I guess I can't comment on that. Let me give you the last guy that I was talking about. So my last and like third guy who I've always liked, for me, it was Efren Navarro. I always thought the guy had a lot of potential. He was one of the last guys drafted in the MLB draft. What was he drafted? It was really, really down there. I think he was one of the only guys to be drafted that far down and make it to the majors. He was drafted in the 50th round of the 2007 draft.
Damn.
Doesn't tell me what draft pick he is, but I mean, at 50, man, you're pretty low. I mean, because wasn't Mike Piazza also pretty close to down there?
Yes. Yeah, he
Mike
was.
Piazza was drafted as a favorite. A guy ended up being a Hall of Famer. Efren Navarro obviously did not end up being a Hall of Famer, but he he was from Linwood, so obviously not that far from Anaheim at all. He had a career batting average of 241, not atrocious, only hit 3 home runs. But in 2014, I remember him being a very key bench piece for the Angels through 64 games. And then in 2015, 54 games as well. 2014, he batted 245, but with an on-base percentage of 302 and pretty solid defense. He was also a kind of guy that they used to throw around everywhere. They have him listed as a first baseman and left fielder, but I remember him playing a couple other positions.
I just remember him looking like a prototypical first baseman. I just remember him. He looked calm out there. It's just his bat never. He just never got consistent. But he was that dude that you saw something in him. He could play.
Yeah, I when I commented that on the Halos and Infield question of the day, I put up for Navarro, and somebody was like, "Man, I remember that one week where he would not get out," and there he was very streaky.
Yeah, very streaky. But here's one. I know we've given our three, but here's
Okay.
one I think that me and you could both agree on as far as a co one right here as a additional fourth because we've talked about this guy before, and that's Peter Borges. Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Didn't get a good chip of the hat his most recent time. What was it, 2 years ago?
yeah. He bowed out with the Angels in 19, actually, but
Really? Was it that long ago?
yeah, 2019, yeah. But
I remember he made that really good play at second base.
dude, okay, 2011 though, that was the year everyone thought he was just going to be this type of player. He had 11 triples, 12 homers, 43 RBIs, 22 stolen bases, and a 271 average. He never sniffed that again. But that
Yeah,
year,
he was like Mike Trout before Mike Trout.
yeah,
That year
that
at
year
least.
he popped off, and we all thought he arrived, and it was fool's gold. But that was definitely, I guess, one of the players that me and you were like, man, if that guy could have either stayed healthy or been consistent, what a player.
Yeah, and he was always good defensively. I mean, even near the tail end of his career there, like I said, I remember that game where Trevor Cahill had to bat for the Angels. I think it was in extra innings, which should have told us everything right there. Peter Borges was playing second base, which was another cause for concern. But he made that diving play to keep the game tied. So, yeah, he was always fun to watch defensively. Okay, I told you before the show that I was going to put you on the spot with something. So you don't have to go too much into detail here, but because I know we could probably do a whole episode about this alone. Who is the one Angel player that you've seen that you hated? Everyone else might have liked him, or he might have been hot for any time, but this guy could have this guy could have whatever, and you would have hated him no matter what. Who is that guy?
Hmm. That's a very, very good question.
Okay. I have one if you want to think for another like
Yeah,
10
yeah.
seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay. Fernando Salas.
Fernando Santos.
I always hated Fernando Salas. Mike Scioscia always misused him, always put him in high leverage situations. And the thing with Fernando Salas, he was lights out or he was the worst pitcher in baseball, depending on the outing. I went to numerous games in 2014 and 2015 where he let the game slip away.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I was looking at Fernando Salas' stats while you talk.
Okay, I'll give you one, and it's one that I've hated for a long time because I used to hear Rex Hudler say it all the time. He's like the mighty Quinlan, Rob Quinlan. He's to me, he irritates me to this day. And he played on some Angels teams that won. It's just it pisses me off that I felt that there was like 25 other guys in the minors that were better than him, that he was stealing a roster spot. And the joke back then was the joke they say now is, wow, they must have had some, pictures, incriminating pictures of Artie. Well, back then it was incriminating pictures of Sosha because I didn't know how he was getting, at bats over way better players off the bench.
Yeah, right. Maybe he had the Epstein list a couple years ago, and Sosha's name might have been.
He had a wiffle ball swing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like just he had a lousy ass.
absolute hack.
Yeah, and somehow he would make some contact and all of a sudden, he had 3 hits in 1 week and Social's like, yep, keep starting him. I'm like, why?
He had one of those swings where like he just closed his eyes and had a direct swing, and if it made contact, hey, the ball would travel, but that's the problem,
Yeah,
making
exactly.
contact.
I hated that guy.
That's fair. So, like I said, I feel like that's a whole nother episode. Maybe we can do in the future. Who are the guys you just hated? Okay, so we'll, as you like to say, put a pin on it, and maybe we'll cover that one in the future. All right, so let's real quick, and I got this because the Super Halo Bros had kind of already talked about it. We hadn't recorded it since this list came out.
Mhm.
So, I kind of want to piggyback off of something they said because I think they actually brought up some pretty decent points on this. There was a list that was made by MLB.com where they talked about the 10 least improved teams this offseason going into the 2024 season. And lo and behold, who's in first place? Well, none other than the Los Angeles Angels. And whose photo is on that post? You'd think it'd be some guy like Shohei Ohtani or something. No, it's actually Artie Moreno. So,
Looks like
I don't
the
have the
guy
list in
looking
front of
over
me.
my shoulder right now.
Yeah, exactly. He looks very disappointed, actually. He looks very disappointed, like he saw your screen before we hit record.
Yeah, he's biting his lower lip. He's like, what's he gonna say about my unfinished business?
Oh, I was gonna say a joke that maybe he's in a feat too when he was watching those videos. But so with that being said, I don't have the rest of the list in front of me. I couldn't find it. I tried to find it before we were recording. I didn't want to dig that deep. But really, the most important thing, the Angels are apparently the least improved team. Now, the biggest reason why is obvious, right? You lost Shohei Ohtani. You haven't replaced him in any capacity. But besides that, I mean, the Angels haven't lost any major pieces. I know they let Escobar walk. Moustakas is obviously a piece, but I don't think that's one that the national media is paying attention to. It really is just Shohei Ohtani. So, in your opinion, is that accurate? Are the Angels the least improved team going into 2024?
Yeah, because they haven't done anything. I mean, their biggest free agent is Ron Washington. They
Hey, they
haven't
got Zach Plesac.
again. Their biggest free agent is Ron Washington. None of. I mean, I love the headline you put on as far as the Angels signing that player. I can't even pronounce his name or think of his name at the moment, but former first round pick in 2015. That's our off season right now, and if it continues, it is going to be a long season. I mean, this is right now, and bit of news tonight was a tweet that came out that Amazon bought a good majority of Diamond Sports Club, which owns Bally's. Uh,
Yep, I saw that.
Bally's is bankrupt, so that takes away from Artie's cash cow because I know he was interested in purchasing that. So, could that
He
be
was before Bally bought it. Yeah.
is this another means to an end for him? But with that being said, yeah, I think they have truly, they were going to be I don't care if they sign 4 free agents, Fernando. I still think losing Shohei, everyone thinks he's the greatest hitter of all time, the greatest pitcher of all time, someone we've never seen before. So until he either crashes and burns or gets even better, he's already got that moniker, and they're already going to slay us for losing 2 players in one.
Yeah, now I don't know if necessarily this offseason is done. And what I mean by that is let's just say that the Angels get one of these arms that's left. Let's put on our land of imagination hats real quick, okay? So let's just say you get a guy like Blake Snell. Hell, for fun, let's throw in Julio Urias, the woman beater. I'm not endorsing that, by the way. That's not
Yeah,
okay
please
in
don't.
any capacity. Yeah, please do not do that. I'm making fun of him merely. I
Well,
don't think that the Angels should look, yeah, in a direction like Cyclops or even a Trevor Bauer to a lesser extent. There's proof that Julio Urias is a dirtbag, right? He's been proven, domestic violence multiple times. Trevor Bauer, he went to court. He was proven innocent in a court of law. Whether you like him or not, that's up to you. I don't like Trevor Bauer because of the drama that would come with him, not necessarily his pitching ability or what he did or didn't do that night that he went to court for. But the fact of the matter is, so let's just entertain the idea that the Angels get a guy like Urias, they get a guy like Blake Snell, whoever. They get a lefty. You're going to think to yourself, well, that's going to be 5 lefties that the Angels are going to have, or they're going to have 4 lefties, right? You're going to have Tyler Anderson, Detmers, Sandoval, and then, Snell or Urias if you get one of those guys. Okay, yes, but you're probably now assuming you're going to trade a guy like Sandoval and Detmers, and you can get a decent return for either of those guys. Andrew, our resident Padres fan, agrees that both of those guys, though they have struggled, have shown enough promise and they have enough control for a lot of teams that you're going to get something back. So what I'm saying is that the offseason isn't completely over. Now, do I think the Angels are going to make a major move? No, I don't. I do think more or less this is the roster they're going to go into it with. If I'm wrong, hey, I've been wrong before. I don't mind being wrong. I know Todd doesn't either. We crow on this network all the time, yet people listen. So with that being said, I know the offseason isn't over, but you obviously have a very, very large cloud of the greatest baseball player on the planet being gone. And like you said, they've done nothing, nor have they even flirted with the idea of trying to replace him with a productive player. You can't replace Ohtani, but just like in Moneyball, you can recreate him.
yeah, I mean, again, we haven't been given any kind of blueprint on what they're going to do. We're just sitting back like every other fan. And when you also, I mean, that's the thing that broke the market too. You got to remember Otani's contract now. Snell's like, oh, I don't want 150 million. Are you kidding me? Get that crap out of here. I can get two or I or 2 or 3, maybe even $400 million. I'm valuable. Blah blah blah. Everyone's going to be like, well, if he got 7, I think I should be worth this, for one-way player. I'm not going to go for 7, but a 350. I mean, dude, it's pushed away a lot of, owners, and a lot of it's pushed agents to either try harder or try to tell their client, hey, simmer down a little bit, because I think what we're going to do is what you said last podcast is, I think, early February, maybe even mid-February into March, you're going to start seeing some real dominoes falling, which should have been falling in late December, January. But we're going to see
Yeah.
these players hold out, and then when they realize, okay, these owners aren't budging, okay, these agents can't get me what I want, it's just gonna turn into, yeah, let's just sign here because I think we're gonna win, or let me see if I can get the most out of this team, or what I mean, like they're gonna push teams to the limit. And I think Angels might, like you said, they might surprise us because they might benefit from some of these players being
That was
banged
going to
up.
be my question there.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, do you think that the later we get and the closer to spring training we get, that the Angels, might have one of these players, maybe two or three of them land in their laps. Maybe not with these big elaborate deals, but with these 1 or 2 year deals that the Angels love signing. Do you think they have that?
Oh, I think so. I think you might see a scenario where the Angels pick up 7 to 8 players, meaning
Really? Okay.
they get your Moustakis, they get your Urshela's back, and they get a couple mid range, free agents to help out the bullpen, maybe a starter, and then they maybe land 1 or 2 big fish, maybe even three that would have been big fish, but the market's not there, so they have to take what a team like the Angels would give. I seriously think it could be anywhere from 5 to 7 mid range to possibly maybe B level um free agents.
Yeah, I could like, because so let's just, okay. So I don't want to go too deep into this because we're not in this speculation, but like, we get a guy like Moustakis or Shella just to, get some depth for Rendon there, and maybe even some depth and help for Shanuel because ShamWow only played, a handful of games last year and he did a great job, but he was a rookie, guys, right? Nobody knew this guy's scouting report. Now the jury's going to be out on him, right? They're going to find the holes in the swings. That happens to everybody. Doesn't matter who you are. So with that being said, we don't know what we're going to get out of ShamWow next year. I'm hoping because he proved to be a pure hitter, he adjusts. But hey, the jury is out. So Mustakas or Shella, that would make me pretty happy. 2 year deal each, 1 year deal, whatever. Okay, and then maybe you get a guy like a JD Martinez. You know, older guy, established hitter. The power is still kind of there. He's going to be what a guy like Hunter Renfroe should have been last year, right? He's going to get you about 20 home runs. He's going to be in that 260 range. He's not going to play very much on the field, but if you need him to play some outfield, okay, he'll bail you out there. Okay, all of a sudden, we're not talking about a horrible year. And then that's when, like, maybe we can take a flyer on a guy like Hung-Jun Ryu coming off of Tommy John surgery. Yeah, another lefty, but I would take a flyer on him at that point because, like, okay, hey, our offense is kind of starting to come along now. There isn't any sexy signings, but the Angels don't need any sexy signings. We've made the big splashes. It doesn't work. I don't want a guy like Blake Snell. He walks too many guys. I don't really think he's reliable. Blake Snell's a Cy Young winner or he's an average pitcher. That is all you get out of Blake Snell. There is no, hey, he had a pretty good year. He's either a Cy Young Award winner or he's Jose Suarez last year. There is no in between for Blake Snell. The only positive that comes out of Blake Snell is that he hasn't really had any prolonged periods of time where he's hurt. He doesn't pitch a lot of innings. I think he's normally like in the 130 to 160 innings pitch range.
Yeah.
And the Angels don't need that. Say what you want about Tyler Anderson having a bad year, but at least he was there. And for the Angels, that's more than we can say about most of our pitchers lately.
And here's my thing. I'll give a good analogy to this, or at least I think I will. A friend, I won't name names, Tony, of mine. He always complains about, man, I always get the crazy chicks, the ones that they're unstable and stuff like that, right? And I think that's the Angels when it comes to free agents. They get the unstable ones, like your Blake Snells, who magically pitch great in their freaking contract walk year. Your Anthony Rendon's, your Gary Matthews Jr. from the past. You name it, player there. With the exception of maybe Albert Pujols because he had a career, steady career before he came to the Angels. But if they did their homework, they would have saw the plantar fasciitis. His last year of St. Louis, stuff like that. But I mean, the Angels usually Tyler Anderson, another one, pitched great for the Dodgers. Let's give him a max contract or a big contract. Angels are just they want to say, hey, we're gonna stay away from those guys who are in these walk years. But then what do? They go right back to it first chance they get. And that's what I'm scared of. If they're really gonna change their mind and do the right thing, I would like, for me, a free agent I keep bringing up is Soler because he's got a good pedigree behind him. It's not just
That's a
last.
good one.
I just don't think he's going to be around in that time period we're talking about where he's going to take a pay cut to sign with us. I think one of these teams are going to have to call his bluff and try to pay him pretty good. coming off a good year in Miami, which is not the easiest place to hit. So, uh, yeah, I mean, I would like another corner outfielder to help with Adele. I like your moves as far as a first baseman, Martinez, and stuff like that. And another pitcher, like take a chance type deal. It wouldn't be bargain basement shopping with Ryu because we know Ryu's got good stuff. And
Yeah, the problem with him is he's coming off for Tommy John surgery. But like I said, if you can secure those other guys, I wouldn't mind. Because worst comes to worst, at least out of Ryu, you're getting a guy who's an established lefty who can teach guys like Sandoval and Detmers who are lefties, like, hey, a thing or two,
one question I have
because
for
he's
you.
been there and he's played in some big games.
And one question I have for you, real quick, Fernando, is because let's
Sure.
just say, even if they don't sign another lefty, doesn't the
Uh-huh.
current state of the rotation for the Angels and the other guys that they got coming out of the minors that are lefties, doesn't that push a Griffin Canning or a Silseth, despite maybe they're not being the best pitchers uh, out of those lefties, into the rotation out of need more than or out of want more than need?
Maybe, if we're talking about really no other moves being made, I want to see Silseth get a solid 2 months in the rotation next year. I don't care if it's an absolute dumpster fire, if he's going up there giving up 5 or 6 runs. If we're rolling in with this team next year and it really is the young guys show, let him go out there every fifth day, let him figure it out. Like I told you, I'm more, if the Angels don't make any big moves, I'm not mad that they didn't sign any big guys. I'm more mad that they didn't go fully into a rebuild. But if this is the team we're going to roll with and let the young guys play, then let the young guys play. If you're going to give Silseth the opportunity, let him go out there, because Canning's probably going to get it. As of right
Yeah.
now, I think Canning's in the rotation. I would look, once again, maybe you do look into trading a guy like a Sandoval or a Detmers and just give Silseth the opportunity, because then you have your five guys, and then maybe you could trade one of those pieces to get one or two decent corner outfielders, prospects, controllable guys, whatever. Or maybe a third baseman, because Rendon only has 2 more years left under contract. And
Is that after this,
if he
or is that?
sucks after this year, he's only got 2 years left.
Oh,
So with that being said, let's just say he sucks this year and he sucks next year. Maybe the Angels bite the bullet and just eat that final year like they did with Upton and Pujols. And at that point, you need a guy to be ready to take his spot. And last time I checked, the Angels don't have any good third baseman. Just burning a hole in their pocket. By then, I think Renhefo will be a free agent. So, you don't even have that. But yeah, I'll leave it at that because I know we're going to start wrapping up.
yeah, yeah. You want to get into Ron Washington?
Yeah, so I'll keep that short and sweet, because I mean, no matter which way you slice it or dice it, we are getting closer to spring training, and I think that's truly when we're going to hear him, hear the players, and see if perhaps whatever kind of knowledge he's spewing is turning the tides a little bit. I love what he said. I love that he's all for holding players accountable. But as of right now, as we sit here in January, a couple days away from my birthday, I know that talk is cheap. It's all talk, guys. He can blah, blah, blah all he wants until he's in that clubhouse and we really see 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after opening day that guys like Rendon, guys like Trout are truly in there taking every single at bat as serious as possible, running out everything. And, say what you want about Mike Trout's batting last year, but I've never once in my mind been like, Trout's kind of mailed it in. Like, he didn't run full speed at first. He let that ball purposely drop in front of him. Maybe he doesn't get to some balls anymore in the outfield like he used to, but, he's also, about to be 32 in
mm,
August. I've never really thought that Trout, like, just doesn't try. Rendon doesn't try at all. So we'll see what happens if he can actually get something out of these guys.
yeah, it's going to come down to for me. Can he get the kind of, because I know Ron Washington has been a part of several good organizations. Can he literally go out there and get the right training staff if he's allowed to do that? Can he can they bring in some machines to help these guys work out? Can we get a dietitian in there to give these guys a meal regimen? Can we get them to have their right vitamins and say their prayers so we're not getting hurt so much? Uh, I don't know, and I think a lot of it's gonna we're gonna see a lot of it in spring training because if you watch MLB Network, they got cameras at every ballpark, every training facility, and if they show the Angels working, doing things something different than what you're seeing, then different is good. The status quo has gone on too long, and we'll see it there first, and then in spring training, if you see more hustle, if you see guys uh not so relaxed and a little bit, hey, we got to play for our position, taking stuff a little bit seriously, then there's a change. And then when regular season comes, if they're not swinging for the fences, maybe we got something here. Maybe we can be positive and not Roger Lodge positive, but maybe we can be just happy to know that we're going to have a competitive team, or at least a team that tries to win instead of, like you said, mailing it in.
I couldn't agree more with you.
So, and whatever happens good, Fernando, the guy behind me will have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but if for whatever reason the Angels do make the playoffs in some mythical society, he'll be the first one to try to take credit for it. I mean, 2014, well, there's those videos of what was that, 2009, where the guys are like dumping champagne on him. Was that Vladdy?
Torrey Hunter.
Torrey Hunter. That's who it was. Yeah, there you go.
But no, I think you're right too. Vladdy was part of it too. They were,
Okay.
both
All
of
right.
them were pouring champagne on him. So yeah,
There you
that
go.
that was really annoying. And you know what's funny, Fernando, is I never thought
Well, at
of
least back then we thought it was a decent owner.
yeah, but here's the thing though, I never thought about him being a narcissist back then. I never thought of,
That's right.
what I mean, because usually you don't really see owners too much,
Yeah,
you know,
ever.
down there partying with the guys. They might smoke a cigar with them in a press conference or something like that, but you really don't see him down there too much. And Artie made it front and center all the time, man.
It was always about him.
Exactly. So if you got anything else, my man?
Last thing I want to do, I'm sure he's not listening, but congratulations to our boy Ty Buttrey signing a contract with Seattle. Yes, as a division rival, but good on him, man. I know he went down to the DR, and I think Puerto Rico as well, had to stop there and played some baseball. He texted me on Saturday. I was out to dinner with my girlfriend, or we were eating dinner, and I get a text from him randomly, and it's just, hey, I signed a contract with Seattle, and him and I chit chatted back and forth, and I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago he made the announcement public. So you know, we're not newsbreakers, and it also wasn't Angels news, but yeah, I was super excited to hear, to see that from him, and congratulations.
Yeah, I would love to see him come out of training camp and break camp with the Mariners and get up, because I mean he's such a great guy, and it would be awesome for him to get another shot at things. And road to redemption from him has been long. So if he can make the Mariners squad, Mariners are going to be competitive. Unfortunately, like you said, they're in the division, but I would definitely be rooting for him.
Yeah, he seems to, I mean, potential Angel killer brewing, right? He went to the Astros and didn't work out there. Now he's going to Seattle, so it's like, oh god. As long as he doesn't end up in Oakland, just for his sake,
Yeah, yeah. We don't wish that upon any other major leaguer. That's
or a Dodger. Oh, rather see him in Oakland.
yeah, please. No more Angels going to the Dodgers, please. For the love of God.
Yeah, right.
All right. So if you got nothing else, that's our show. And once again, Halos in the Infield podcast at yahoo.com. Shoot us an email and we will get your name out there and answer your questions or whatever you got going on brewing. So for Todd Fox and
The Lone Star Halo.
take it easy.